Hello, I'm Donna. I want to talk a little bit about food intolerances and food allergies. There is a lot of ignorance in society about these things. There are people um, who believe that they have this or they have that, and they exclude themselves from eating a whole lot of stuff. And there is a thing called orthorexia nervosa of people who will essentially start starving themselves to death because they believe that this or that or the other is not good for them. There are people who are looking to understand their irritable bowel or their brain fog or uh, various physiological things that they're dealing with, and who believe that it's caused by this sensitivity or this sensitivity, and who through trial and error find ways of managing that stuff. And if that works for you, then that's great, and that's your choice. There are people who go to naturopaths and get a whole lot of IgG allergy tests, and IgG tests are completely unreliable. IgG levels of reactions to foods they fluctuate as normal. That's normal for them to fluctuate. So if somebody says, "Oh, you've just become sensitive to this," "Oh, you've just stopped being sensitive to this because I gave you all these drops or whatever," chances are, those sensitivities would have been fluctuating anyway, and that's okay. It's everyone's own journey, blah blah blah, and I'm not going to put shit on them if that's what they feel has helped them in their journey to feel better. There are things like IgE allergies, which is immunoglobulin E. It's an antibody reaction, and these are called true allergies. People often think if you had a true allergy, you will have anaphylaxis. You're going to have your throat close, it's going to be life-threatening, you're going to turn blue, and you might die. Or you're going to have projectile vomiting. Or you're going to have such severe eczema, it's going to be really obvious. Or you're always going to break out in massive levels of hives that'll be so obvious everyone will see it. Or it's going to cause such a severe asthma reaction that it's potentially life-threatening for you. Now, not all IgE levels can happen in different levels. So if you have a severe IgE level, it might manifest that way. But if you have a really mild one, you might be able to get away with eating things that you've got IgE allergies to and not have very much reaction at all, or even not even have a reaction if it's such a low level allergy. Or you might be somewhere in the middle. If you're somewhere in the middle, then you're probably going to get things like headaches, migraines, gastro, colic, brain fog, and you might have neurological effects of things like where it's messing with your brain chemistry. You become confused, more anxious. It might affect your moods, your behavior, all that sort of stuff. So there's people in that middle group, and I think that's very difficult because if people, they understand the severe end and they understand the really mild end. People who one day can't have this and another day can have that, blah blah blah. They don't understand the people in the middle. And it's like saying, well, if you turned around on a person who doesn't deal with that, would they mind just having a headache and a migraine and some gastro for 3 days just to make you feel comfortable by eating the same food or ordering at the same restaurant without telling the people, can I swap that for that, or can you just leave that off the plate, blah, 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 blah. I mean, really, is it so uncomfortable for the other person that they really need the person with allergies or intolerances to be in the closet and to pander to their normality? I don't think that's friendship. I don't think that's healthy, and I don't think that's, it's just not on. So there's also, in addition to IgE allergies and the fact that there are severe, moderate and mild IgE allergies, there are food intolerances. And a food intolerance is not just, I don't like the taste of this, I don't like the sensation of that. which is called somatosensory amplification, and it's I guess a mental health or sensory processing issue where you have built up a phobic reaction to a certain texture, a certain smell, or a certain taste. Some people won't eat certain coloured foods or whatever, and that's not the same thing as having a food intolerance. A food intolerance is where, for example, you're not able to properly digest a food. So let's say you have an IgE deficiency, so you're not producing enough enzymes to properly break down your foods, because that's one of the jobs of IgA, is it signals enzyme production that helps you digest certain types of foods. So some people with this might take enzymes that help them to better digest those foods. It doesn't mean that it's necessarily going to completely take care of that. For some people it will. For some people it'll make it a bit easier and a bit possible to be a little more flexible. And for some people it won't help at all. And so some of the most common food intolerances are things like gluten intolerance, inability to break down the gluten protein, casein, which is your milk protein, particularly the cow's milk protein, which is one of the largest of the casein molecules, where, say, sheep milk is a much smaller casein molecule and easier to break down, blah, blah, blah. And so someone who doesn't live with this stuff, they go, oh, but why can you eat sheep yogurt and you can't have my whipped cow's cream, Well, you don't understand how that stuff works. Oh, it won't kill you. No, it won't kill you, but it might give you things like colic and gastro and headaches and brain fog and neuropsychiatric effects. And these will usually take about 3 days, because that's how long it takes to get that substance out of your system, or at least to travel the digestive tract. In the case of another one of the food intolerances that's really common is salicylate intolerance. There's also amines and phenols and various stuff. Salicylate intolerance, salicylate's a natural plant toxin. So our bodies are meant to detox from levels of this, and most people's bodies can do that well. And that's great. There's certain things that you might be missing that mean you don't detox as well as other people. For example, our immune system is part of what helps us with the detoxification process. Liver function is another one, kidney function is another one. But it might also be that you don't have enough of the enzyme that helps you to properly digest salicylates. So those things are going to build up in your system, and they can cause inflammatory states, chronic inflammatory states. So if you're used to having a lot of significant joint pain or gut inflammation or various inflammatory states, salicylates might really exaggerate that and leave you on anti-inflammatory medication unless you can manage to keep your salicylate levels low. But when you're in company with other people, they say, well, why are you able to have salicylates today, but you can't have them again tomorrow? Or why are you really strict on your salicylate levels now, but now you're able to have that thing that's got honey in it? Because it takes 7 to 10 days to get salicylates, to really lower the salicylates in your system. And it really messes with your head. So salicylate toxicity causes a cocaine-like effect. So when you start clearing this out of your system, sure, your inflammation levels come down, but emotionally and mentally, behaviorally, you're all over the place. That's if you don't get hives, allergy rashes, asthma, eczema from the salicylate levels. And some people do, some people don't. I do, but not consistently. So I'm a hives and an eczema girl and an asthma girl. But mostly with salicylates, I end up on the anti-inflammatories. So whatever issues I have related to having a collagen disorder just seem to get much more challenging, especially in terms of mobility and pain. So yeah, I choose not to have that level of pain and that level of disability issues, and that's my choice. It's my choice of what level of disability I choose to put up with, and I don't think it's someone else's position to judge that or take ownership of that. It's not their issue. It's not their choices. Yeah, and they haven't walked in those shoes. So yeah, back off. Then fructose intolerance is a very common intolerance. It's one that I don't have, lucky. But it affects diet really broadly. But those people who have fructose malabsorption, they might get ulcerative colitis from it. So they're bleeding from their butt. They might get lesser symptoms. So they might get, brain fog and colic and gastro, IBS type issues, headaches, migraines. So it's okay to pressure them to just, handle it for a day, handle it for a week, so that you can feel comfortable that they're normal? Really? So I think if a person with food intolerances has got used to their world and that stuff's normal in their world, and their partner and their closest friends chill out and never make a big point about it, they never take it and stick it in their face or flag wave it. They never say, oh my God, I'd just die if that was me. Oh, I can't think of anything more horrible. You're so unlucky. I don't know how you can live with that. That's really insulting. If someone said, I don't know how you can live with being that ugly. Oh, you're so unlucky to be that fat. I'd just die if I was that bald. I mean, really? You'd say that person's got some really serious issues and they really need to go and see a therapist and get that sorted out, because there's something seriously going on there. And it's actually not the problem of the person with the food allergies and the food intolerances. Yes, someone who's got those might need to say to the waiter or to the chef, can you manage this kind of a diet? Whoopee-doo! That's not your business and it's not your problem. Don't take that and shove it in someone's face as if it's your big grandstand. No, that's just their normality. And if you feel embarrassed about it, don't be friends with people who have those issues. If you can't shut up and keep your judgments to yourself, your insecurity, your embarrassment, and your projections, then go and mix with your own. And don't con yourself that you're so disability friendly. Even if you feel that you can handle, someone who's severely anaphylactic, or someone who's got severe ulcerative colitis, someone who's got severe asthma or whatever, and that somehow makes you some kind of a hero, that you can handle the incredible burden that those people live with. Well, you're not a hero. There's a whole lot of people in between. Yeah, there are people who imagine a whole lot of stuff is going on for them, or they're fixating on all kinds of physical sensations, and it's actually just in their head and it's part of their psychiatric thing, or maybe they've got orthorexia nervosa and they're fixating on what's wrong with them, and they end up eating virtually nothing. And if they really had these issues, they'd be anaphylactic with projectile vomiting and severe eczema. You don't know jack shit. There's a whole lot of people who are in between there. And if you don't live in that world, if you're not the partner of that person who's been through that process with that person, seen what they're like when they've had those things, seen what the bloody toilet is like when they're sitting in there dealing with it, or what their mobility is like when they get up and try and get walking when they've had too much of something that their body can't properly digest or detox from. You don't have that right. You're not that close in their inner circle to really make those judgments and projections. Celiac, autoimmune disorder, where you're attacking your own gut lining, but not all people with celiac will be the same. Some people can handle food that has been cooked in the same oil as food that's got gluten. other people are so severely celiac that they'll have an extreme reaction even with that low level of gluten contamination. So some of these people will be able to eat foods that say may contain traces, and other people can't at all. So it's a spectrum, and it's about time you started looking at it as a spectrum. Some people with celiac will be diagnosed by an IgA blood test for celiac, and other people might be IgA deficient, and I think it's 10 times the celiac rate for people with IgA deficiency, or 10 or 30 times, can't remember. But the point is they have a false negative to IgA blood tests to celiac. And if a neurologist then treats them for celiac neuropathy and says, you have celiac and you are coming off gluten, and then neuropathy gets resolved, who are you to say that they need to go back onto something that is frying their nerves and causing them sensory motor or autonomic neuropathy that is painful, that is impinging on their capacity to fully function, that is putting them onto various levels of pain medication, or just significantly limiting their potential and their capacity to forget about their body, because with neuropathy, you might have things like, your mouth is really burning, your lips are numb, your hands are numb, your feet are numb, you've got stabbing pains going on in your feet, you've got buzzing traveling up and down your legs are collapsing as you're falling, you're walking upstairs. You might have autonomic dysfunction, which is affecting your bladder and bowel and breathing and heart and blood pressure, temperature regulation departments. So who are you to say, oh, it's just a bit of neuropathy? It's not like you have real celiac. You're not. If you're not actually an expert in that field, maybe the most unfortunate thing that's going on is not that the person that you're with has got that issue, or even a range of those issues if they're unlucky enough to actually have a collection of them. Maybe the real issue is that you're having a real big problem with admitting the limitations of your own expertise, and that you're really limited in the kinds of things that you are disability friendly about and the kinds of things that you are not. And maybe you're really impaired in the ability to understand how to have a healthy friendship with somebody who has dietary disabilities without judging them, sticking it in their face, flag waving your attempts to meet their needs, hating them if they somehow can't accept the ways that you let's say you're giving them things that they're allergic to, and they can't accept it. Just get over it, because sometimes the hardest part about dietary disabilities is not the dietary disabilities, it's the people around you who just don't get it, who can't hack it, and deep down they're judging you for it. Tough one.